Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and I'm super excited today because I get to teach you how to build your own super reliable, fast and affordable desktop PC for the office. These components are carefully selected by me that are meant to withstand the test of time, and once these components are turned on, they're meant to stay on for years at a time. Yep, believe it, they can do that. Now, starting from the left, I have a Cooler Master RC344 case that comes preloaded with its own 420 watt power supply, good enough to power up all these components, and also comes with everything right out of the box. You've got your fan, you've got your screws, mounting brackets, everything that you need, so that's ready to go for me. Second, I've got Gigabyte. Need I say more? Gigabyte is like the Rolls Royce of motherboards. It's not a super high-end motherboard, but it's fine for everyday use. Then we have my favorite processor, Intel Core i5 8th generation 8600. This thing is a beast. We'll be sticking that onto this motherboard today. That can be on and stayed on forever. And also we have Kingston 8GB DDR4 RAM, which is also meant to withstand the test of time, and it's super reliable because Kingstons have never failed me in the past, and they also give you a lifetime warranty. So this RAM is supposed to be of U-Butte. And last but not least, we have our WD Blue SSD drive that's super reliable, super fast, and also withstands the test of time. And they give you 3 years warranty with this, but I'm sure this can last a lot more than 3 years for everyday use. So today we're going to be sticking all these parts together, and I'm going to show you a step-by-step guide on how you can do this yourself. And yeah, let's get started. Thanks for watching. Okay guys, so we're going to start off by removing the side panels from the desktop tower. Remove other parts that may be bundled with the desktop as well. Then tip the tower on its side for the time being. Next, we'll remove the motherboard out of its packaging and prepare it for the CPU and RAM. This is the I/O shield, we'll get to that later. And the cables for connecting the hard drives. Unpack the processor, which also includes the cooling fan and heatsink, as well as the Intel sticker that we see on the front of most desktops. Remove the fan and heatsink and place it on the side for the time being while we install the CPU. Open the lever and socket cover like this, and remove the plastic socket protector. Remove the CPU from its packaging. Take note of the two cutouts on either side, as they will need to be lined up with the notches in the socket. Insert the CPU like this and close the socket cover back to its original location. The CPU needs to be kept cool, so we'll mount the fan and heatsink on top of it. Take note of the 4 bottom plugs, as they will need to be inserted in the cutouts of the motherboard. Mount the fan and heatsink by guiding the plugs into the cutouts of the motherboard. Secure it in place by pushing the plugs down with your thumbs. You will need to hear a reassuring click. Connect the fan plug into the fan header, which is a simple one-way plug to avoid mistakes. Next up, we install the RAM into one of these RAM sockets. This is a very simple process. Just take care that the cutout on the RAM stick matches the location of the notch on the RAM socket itself. If not, you may have to turn it around. Secure the RAM in place by applying a little pressure and the clips snap back into place. The CPU and RAM installation is now complete, and now the motherboard is ready to be fitted inside the desktop tower. Get familiar with the standoff location points inside the desktop. As they will need to match the mounting location on the cutouts of the motherboard itself. These are the standoff mounts. Screw them in their correct location, matching the cutouts of the motherboard. No tools are required for this, you can simply screw them in by hand. Next up, we need to install the I/O shield on the back of the tower. I/O is short for input-output, and its job is to simply protect and decorate the rear ports on our PCs like this. Secure it in place by clipping it in with your hands. Install the motherboard in the desktop by lining up the cutouts with the standoff stubs and lining up the rear ports with the I/O shield. Select the appropriate screws for the standoff stubs. Secure the motherboard in place with a Phillips head screwdriver. The motherboard is now mounted and properly in its place. So now we start with the wiring. These are the plugs required for the front panel of the PC. These are responsible for the hard drive activity light, the power switch, the power indicator and the reset switch. They are clearly labelled and unique in colour to make them easier to recognise. This is the front panel. The USB and audio ports will also need to be connected, but we'll get to that next. The headers for these plugs are always placed together and clearly labelled to match the plugs to prevent any mistakes. Matching the positive and negative terminals, this is how they plug in. These are the front USB and audio plugs I mentioned earlier. The connectors in these plugs are unique in form, so they can be plugged in their own specific locations on the motherboard. This helps with preventing mistakes. Here's a close-up of all the front panel connections for your convenience. Next, we install the SSD drive. Note that the drive has two connectors at the back for power input and data output. I couldn't find a suitable location for installing the SSD in the chassis, so I ended up getting an adapter to suit the larger opening of the case. Make sure the SSD connectors are facing the motherboard for easier connectivity. Secure the SSD in place with the screws provided. Here's a close-up of the SSD drive for your convenience. This is the drive cable that we took out of the motherboard box earlier. Plug one side of it in the back of the SSD drive and the other side into the motherboard. These connectors are uniquely shaped to avoid making mistakes. Last but not least, we need to provide power to the components from the power supply. Don't be overwhelmed by the amount of connectors on here, we will only need 3 of these for our build. First we connect a 24-pin connector to power the motherboard, then the power to the CPU, and power to the SSD drive. These are all also uniquely shaped to fit in one way. This particular power supply comes with a dual CPU connector to make it compatible with a variety of models. We will only need to use 4 of these pins that match the socket on this particular motherboard. In this case, we will be using the 4 pins to the right of the wires. And finally, the power to the SSD drive. There's a few of these plugs available from the power supply for multiple drives, but we only need one for this build. This plug is also unique in form to prevent from making a mistake. This is optional, but you can tidy up any messy wires if you like. And finally, reinstall the side panels. The only thing left to do now is to plug in my Windows installation USB drive, power up the PC, and install Windows.